Anytime you have a business and you can generate more money with the business, that business is worth more money. The payment on $1 million on a 20-year AM is $7,000 a month. So anytime my business does another $7,000 in sales, it'll support me borrowing another $1 million, or it'll support it being worth another $1 million. It's just kind of a little way to think about every time I can clear another $7,000, I can either borrow money against it, I can afford to pay another $1 million note payment, or it's worth more money to a person that's going to buy it in terms of net operating income. So the key is, in mini storage, what else can I do? What else would support it in mini storage? Now, if you think about having mini storage, as I said so many times, I would never have a mini storage if I couldn't have RV parking. Now, RV parking lends itself to all the ancillary things that go with an RV. Like I said, if you can increase your revenue, your net operating income by just as little as $7,000 a month, that literally means your business is worth another $1 million. Go $14,000, now it's worth another $2 million, and that literally is how it works. Alrighty, here we are. This location is actually a really cool location because I actually did this one with my brother Joe. This location is what we would call an up-and-coming location, and the reason it's an up-and-coming location is because everything's here, but it's not all the way here. It has a lot of good things about it. Some of the good things about this location and why we chose this location, and what we did is we actually went to all the competing mini storages that were within a 3-mile radius. So we went to all the mini storages, seeing that the mini storages were at least 80% full, and they got a decent rent for their 10 by 30s, 10 by 15s, and 10 by 10s. All right, so we got a good traffic count. We got the competing locations all doing good, at least 80% full, and we also have a decent looking area. We have an airport really close to us, which is really good. And from that point, we decided to do a full demographic and feasibility study. Okay, so now we have all the elements that are needed to choose a location. So we figured, okay, let's go ahead with this location. And what we found is it's actually a 13-acre location. Now, 13 acres is kind of on the large side for mini storage, but it's not too large because, as I said before and say it all the time, that we always want to have RV parking in with the mini storage. See, that is very important to have RV parking, especially when you have an up-and-coming. Now, let's talk about this. We got 13 acres. It's an up-and-coming, which means we want to phase build this. Now, what that simply means is when we phase build a location, here's what we're going to do. As we can look over here right now, this mini storage actually goes really deep, and we actually built the first few buildings first, and as the rest of the mini storage fills up, we would then build more buildings. Let's go back here and take a look at what we have here. This is the office where the manager works out of, and the manager actually lives to the left-hand side of this. This is called on-site living location, which, by the way, you have to get a special, you have to get a ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, to get on-site management on a commercial property. As you look at this building here, the main office, that's actually what we call split-face rock construction. All right, and actually it abuts to what we have is a steel building, and this is for climate control. The climate control right here is actually steel construction, and if you look over here to my left, you actually have metal building construction with what we call a standing seam roof. So you got a standing seam roof over here. You have the main office made out of block. You have the climate control that's also made out of a steel building, and it's really nice. They go up, it's relatively quick. I mean, you can get in and out of these buildings really fast, okay? Once you do your initial site work, put your underground in, put your concrete pads down, do your asphalt, you get everything ready to go, you get the steel company to come in and literally put the infrastructure, you put the walls up, the roof on, and then you come in and do the inside of the mini storage. And it's all out of steel. It actually looks pretty good, very efficient. It's a little cheaper to do. It's a little more expeditious. You can get them done a little bit faster than you could block construction, and again, you're going to save some money. And you can see the place looks really good. It's been here for probably 6, 7 years, 8 years. Now, let's talk about how we phase built this mini storage. So what we did is we actually built the main office first that has the manager where they live and actually the office that they conduct the business out of. Okay, so once we build that building, then we build, say, I think there's 3 or 4 buildings here that we built first. But the question is, if we have 13 acres, what are we going to do with the rest of the land? See, that's a big question. The trick is, and we call this site work, the original site work that we build the pads that we're going to look over here to my left, you're going to build all these concrete pads, you're going to build all those at one time, and then you can have all these empty pads that you see in the center over here. You see, these pads here are actually such that everything's there. You got your footing, you got your foundation, you have everything ready to go, where when these buildings here fill up, then the next pad to go to is the one that has the RV parking on. So what we would do as the rest of the buildings fill up, because it's up and coming, so we're going to build a handful of buildings first, and then as they fill up, you just slowly, gradually boot out the rest of the RV parking that are parked on top of the pads that you're going to build your next storage centers on, your next buildings on. So we have right here, this pad here, this pad is 40 feet wide by 300 feet deep, and they already have their footings and foundation ready to go. And what we're going to do now is, I think we're going to do our next phase, the next phase of building. The next building, as you can see, would be go right here. So you see the RVs right over here. We're going to bounce these RVs off here, and they already started to do it, which is why you see it a little bit empty. When you build a mini storage, it takes about 18 to 24 months to fill the mini storage, okay? The trick is how you're going to get over debt service as quick as possible. You see, if you only build a few buildings first and you got 13 acres and you have some site work, you're gonna have a few $1 million in the project. The key is get to break even as quick as possible. Well, if you know it's going to take up to 2 years to fill the mini storage with regular mini storage, what are you going to do with the rest of, say, if you have 13 acres and you built on 6, you have 7 acres left? Well, the answer is RV parking. RV parking fills up wicked fast. The rest of this RV parking, another 6, 7, 8 acres, whatever you have allocated towards RV parking, you could typically fill that within your first year. So if you have empty space waiting for future expansion and future development, the trick of it is just simply park RVs on the parking spot, which would then give you money real quick within that first year to cover your overhead, to cover your expenses. See, the key in any business that you're going to have, I've done a lot of stuff, is to get to break even quicker than anybody can, so you don't have what we call carrying costs. Carrying costs will bring you down big time in any business, whatever you do, mini storage, restaurant, car wash, whatever you do, you got to get to break even really, really fast. That way you have less carrying costs that you're going to incur in that project. So here, it's really easy to get to break even in carrying costs simply by having RV parking. Financing on this property was actually wasn't too bad. What we did is we actually paid cash for the property, and once you do that, then you can take the property and use it for collateral to get what we call a collateralized loan for a construction loan. Okay, then you're going to take the construction loan and you're going to start building your buildings, and then you're going to get your draws to pay your subcontractors as you provide and move along in the project. So financing wasn't really too bad. Typically, if you don't have the money to do that, what you would look for is a person that owned the land, that was free and clear, that really didn't understand what to do with the property. And as long as the land is free and clear, bring them in as a partner on the deal, then use the land for collateral and then get a construction loan and do your build out. I get that question asked all the time. Well, gee, Jeff, I'd love to do a mini storage, but I just don't have the kind of money to do it. What do I do? Well, what we like to do is find somebody with land that literally doesn't know what to do with it. Now, as the climate that we're in right now, there's a lot of vacant land out there with a lot of people that don't know what to do with land because they simply can't sell it. So find yourself a guy that has a block of land, 5 to 10 acres, doesn't know what to do with it, bring him in as a partner, and then at that point, you create an LLC and divvy up how you want the partnership to go with, and then get the land, do your demographics, feasibility study, and actually go to the bank and use that for collateralized to get your first loan. Now, this one here was a little difficult in zoning. Zoning can be just so difficult, you guys. Zoning, my gosh, I can write books on zoning. This one here was a little more difficult in that you can have the highest commercial zoning but still not be zoned for mini storage. How crazy is that? I know, but it's just the way it is. Okay, the aspects of ABC that were problematic was we built that in the wintertime. We had some problems with construction. The guy that we actually did the site work for us kind of dropped the ball on us. So site work, and anytime you're developing a property, that is always the most ambiguous part about building, because you really never know, how much topsoil you're going to remove or what conditions you're going to run into as you start getting into the project. So anytime you have site work, particularly there, we had some problems because the ground wasn't where we wanted it to be. So that was a little bit problematic. We had a little bit of problems with zoning. At ABC, if you remember, we had a large block wall, a CMU, a concrete masonry unit wall, and the reason we had to put that there is because the city's codes were such that we had to build this big, long block wall that was, I believe, 10 feet high. Now, if you look at other mini storages that I have, they're actually chain link fence. Now, to have a chain link fence or a block wall is way more expensive. So that in itself was quite problematic because it costs us a lot of money to do that. So with this one here, the zoning was a bit challenging. It took us some hurdles, maybe 3 or 4 months to get through it, but we eventually did. And by the way, to have on-site management at a mini storage. So in other words, we want the manager to live on site. But to do that, on a commercial property, you can't do that. You can't have on-site management, which means you have to go to what's called ZBA or Zoning Board of Appeals to have a on-site management live on a commercial facility. And that's what we have here. It's an awesome place, and I'm really glad that we did it.